here is part 4 and the finale of this series of what if Peyton Manning did not sign with the Broncos. First one I talked about if he signed with the 49ers. Second one I talked about if he signed with the Titans. The third one I talked about if he signed with the Cardinals. But now it's time to wrap it up with what if he signed with the Dolphins instead. So here we go. What if he signed with the Dolphins? So it's March 2012 and Peyton Manning is signed with the Dolphins. Now, of course, their quarterback situation is they had Matt Moore as their backup, who played most of the year last year. But remember, in the draft, they drafted Ryan Tannehill. Now, they're not going to need him now since they got Peyton. So where would Tannehill go? He would end up instead with the Cardinals. So the Cardinals in this theory would benefit massively from that. So now let's get into 2012 itself. So in 2012, the Dolphins had a pretty damn good defense in 2012, but their offense was disappointing. But with Peyton playing, it would play much better as they would go 13-3 and make the playoffs as the Broncos struggle as they go 8-8. Meanwhile, the Cardinals would play much better with rookie Ryan Tannehill as they would improve to 7-9. So in the updated 2012 stands, the AFC, the Dolphins now have the number 1 seed as the Texans move up to the 2nd seed. The Bengals move up to the 3rd seed. The Chargers make the playoffs as the 4th seed. The Patriots fall down to the 5th seed, and the Ravens fall down to the 6th seed. And the NFC, the 49ers and Seahawks would swap places. So for the Peyton-led Dolphins, the divisional round, they would host the Ravens. And of course, just like what happened in real life, Peyton would struggle against the Ravens, Flacco would have this incredible game, and the Ravens would beat the Dolphins in double overtime. And thanks to the swapped seeds, it's now the Seahawks against the Ravens in the Super Bowl. And of course, the Seahawks being the much better team and on the roll at that point, they would beat the Ravens and get their first title in their franchise history. So just like I said in my last part with Peyton signing with the Cardinals, in 2013, since the Cardinals now have Ryan Tannehill, they don't need Palmer, so instead the Raiders trade him to the Bills. In 2013, with Peyton's MVP season, despite that though, the Cardinals would do worse than they did in last season's. They regressed to 12-4, quite surprising to say the least. And the Broncos also would stun everyone as they finished 9-7 despite the struggles of Tebow. That was crazy. The Cardinals would regress to 8-8 instead of going 10-6 since Palmer was better despite all of his interceptions compared to Tannehill. And the Palmer-led Bills would not change as they finished 6-10. So in the updated 2013 stands in the AFC, the Patriots move up to the number 1 seed, the Chiefs move up to the 2nd seed, the Dolphins make the playoffs at the 5th seed, the Chargers stay where they're at. In the NFC, nothing changes. So for the playoffs, in the wild card, the Dolphins would have to visit the Colts, as this would be the first time in the playoffs that Peyton would face his former team. Now remember, this was the game, that incredible comeback that the Colts had. Remember, they were down 38-10 to the Chiefs and they ended up winning at 45-44. Yep, the Colts would put up that many points, and despite Peyton's MVP season, he would get all the touchdowns needed that he would score, on average almost 4 touchdowns a game, but it still would not be enough as the Colts hold on to beat the Dolphins. And with the Broncos not being in the way, Super Bowl 48 would be the Patriots and the Seahawks. With the Seahawks being better, the Patriots struggling like they were unlike previous years, the Patriots would lose to the Seahawks so they can get a 2nd title in a row. So in 2014, the Dolphins, after the terrible taste in their mouths after being one and done last year, hope to make it back to the Super Bowl, which they still have yet to do. Peyton would have a strong start to the year, but unfortunately would begin to regress, as the Dolphins end up regressing to 10-6. The Cardinals, with Ryan Tannehill, would improve still slowly as they only improved to 9-7. The Broncos would struggle as they finished 5-11, and the Carson Palmer-led Bills would still finish 9-7. So in the updated 2014 stands in the AFC, the Colts move up to the 2nd seed as the Chargers make the playoffs as the 4th seed, and the Chiefs make the playoffs as the 6th seed as the Dolphins miss the playoffs on tiebreakers. In the NFC, the Cowboys have the number 1 seed as the Seahawks fall to the 2nd seed, the Packers fall down to the 4th seed, the Eagles make the playoffs as the 5th seed. And as I mentioned in my previous theory on if he signed with the Cardinals, this Super Bowl would once again be the Patriots and the Packers. But this time around, the Packers needed an extra touchdown from Aaron Rodgers to get the win. Last time, they did get it, but this time, they did not get that extra touchdown, so the Patriots hold on to win it. So, in the offseason of 2015, like I said in the last video, if he signed with the Cardinals, since the Bills have Carson Palmer, they don't need to sign Tyrod Taylor, so he won't go to them. Instead, he would sign with the Texans just like he did in my theory on if he signed with the Titans. So in 2015, the Cardinals with Peyton's last year, unfortunately, it would be falling apart completely as they finished 4-12, bottoming out really badly in 2015. The Ryan Tannehill-led Cardinals would actually finally make the playoffs as they go 10-6. The Broncos continue to struggle as they went 5-11. The Carson Palmer-led Bills would improve to 11-5 like they did in my last theory. The Tyrod Taylor-led Texans, meanwhile, would improve to 11-5 as well, doing even better than they did in the last theory. So, in the updated 2015 standings in the AFC, the Bengals now have the number 1 seed as the Chiefs move up to the 2nd seed, the Texans move up to the 3rd seed, the Bills make the playoffs of the 4th seed, the Jets make the playoffs of the 5th seed, and the Patriots fall all the way down to the 6th seed. And in the NFC, the Cardinals and Vikings would swap places. So we're going to start in the NFC as the Cardinals would host the Seahawks in this timeline. Remember, the Cardinals got crushed by the Seahawks just the previous week. But this time around, just like remember with the Vikings in real life when the Seahawks crushed them but they barely beat them in the wild card, this would happen again as the Seahawks would only put 10 points up. But with Ryan Tannehill, the Cardinals would put up enough points to get the win as they get their revenge, what sets them up in the divisional round at the Vikings. And just like they did in real life, barely beating the Vikings as they struggle as well, the Cardinals would do it once again, where they would face off against the Panthers still in the NFC Championship. Ryan Tannehill, of course, this is imaginary since he never played in the NFC Championship that year. I doubt he'll play as bad as Palmer did, but the Panthers are very likely still going to win. Then we go over to the AFC as the Carson Palmer-led Bills would host the Jets in the wild card round, which in a classic one, the Bills would hold on to win it, which sets them up in the divisional round at the Chiefs. The Chiefs put up 20 points in that game. Carson Palmer would do enough to get them enough points to get the win. So the AFC Championship would be the Patriots at the Bills now. Unfortunately for the Bills, Carson Palmer would fall flat on his face this game, and the Patriots would roll stomp the Bills. And for the 3 out of the 4 theories in this one, for its Super Bowl 50 would be the Patriots and the Panthers. And just like I said about the previous 2 theories about this game, I'm picking the Patriots to beat the Panthers. So that is the wrap up of the series as Peyton would retire after 2015. Broncos, like I said, be in contention still to get Paxton Lynch. The Bills would still be in better shape with Palmer right now for at least the next 2 years compared to Tyrod Taylor. The Texans likewise would do better with Tyrod Taylor than they did with Osweiler in 16, but I think they still would pick up Watson in 2017. Meanwhile, for the Dolphins, of all the 4 teams that I picked that Peyton would sign with, they did the worst in this timeline. They made the playoffs just 2 times, and they went 0-2, one and done both times. Unfortunately, because they had to play the Ravens, who had that incredible game in Mile High Miracle, remember? And that incredible comeback game against the Colts. If they played someone else, they might have had a chance, but unfortunately, those 2 games were just too insurmountable for the Dolphins to do, as they don't even win a playoff game, unfortunately for them. And now they're in a worse spot, as they don't have a quarterback now. They don't even have Ryan Tannehill. And they're not in a position, well, actually, they would be in position. The Titans had the number 1 overall pick. And the second pick was a freeway tie between the Dolphins, Browns, and Cowboys. So maybe there's a chance that they have a second pick. So maybe they could get over the Browns and maybe they take Carson Wentz instead. And of course, they would be in a much better situation for the next few years if they had him. But otherwise, shit, the Dolphins might be screwed for the next several years before they get a quarterback. Who knows what would happen? But hey, it's just a theory, an NFL theory. thanks for watching. I hope you all enjoyed this four-part series on where I talked about if Peyton signed with the 49ers, Titans, Cardinals, and Dolphins. Now, oh boy, this next two I'm going to be talking about is going to be interesting as it involves another Hall of Fame quarterback. That'll be fun to talk about. I've been looking forward for this one. So see you guys then.